Welcome to You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. Nothing feels as good as listening to your own voice, and each week we have conversations to help you do just that. Get comfy, grab your favorite fun drink, and let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Season 4 of You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. I'm so excited to be here. I kind of can't believe that it's already Season 4, and I also am feel like I don't know. I feel all mixed emotions about it, but I am very excited to be recording, and I am very excited to be here with you, Meg, and I am very excited for you listening to be here with us as well. This season, we are bringing a little bit more intention and focus into our message around trusting ourselves and why that's so important. And we're really going to go heavy on tying that message into every one of the topics that we talk about for each episode. And for this one, since it is the start of 2025, and, we're new year, new me, resolutions, all of that. If you want to know how we really feel about that, you can go listen to past episodes titled New Year, New Me is Bullshit. But this first episode of 2025, we're going to talk about our ins and outs. So we're going to go a little trendy here. We're going to talk about our ins and outs for 2025. But we're going to first talk about why it's so important and how these things tie into trusting ourselves. So Meg, welcome to the show. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
I would also love for you to talk a little bit more about how we're going to tie these things together today.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be back for Season 4. There's something about Season 4 that's landing in my body so nicely that I feel like so many listeners and so many more listeners are going to be able to start to trust themselves this year. And I'm really excited for this episode because the start of the new year and all that comes with that is a really important time for our message and content of self-trust to be really, really vital in the steps we take right now, right? Because so here at You Can Trust Yourself podcast, that's the basis of it for Maggie and I. That is our gift that we nurture and we have in common. And it's one that sets the precedent for our entire lives, right? Self-trust is essential for every single thing in life. Trusting ourselves every single day, whether it be with decisions we make, big or small, relationships, how we show up in the world, things like that, it is essential to being human beings who are living by our own design, so to speak, instead of just surviving every single day or just leaving it up to somebody else to kind of tell us what we think and things like that. So I'm really excited for Season 4, and I'm really excited for this episode because I feel like for you listeners, the trustees, this is a time of year where you are probably being bombarded with content, specifically around social media and also just out there in the world, like the amount of billboards and signs that say new me, and then there's always something that you must buy, right? Or there's always something you must do in order to have this thing that marketing firms and different places are really, really, really good at getting us to. And what we're going to talk about today is that this is not to bash those worlds. They exist for a reason, right? We live in a consumerist place. That's just where we live here. If you're listening, we do have a few listeners from other countries, so maybe it's a little different in other cultures and places, but it is everywhere right now. So we're going to start, though, by talking about, and Maggie, if you can kind of start to lead us through this of why self-trust is essential every day. But for the purposes of 2025 and the new year and things like that, what does it mean for you? And I think our listeners will probably resonate by hearing some of your personal need for it almost, of the need for your self-trust during this time of year in particular.
Ooh, that is such a good question. Okay, so you said it very well that the new year brings about almost this bombarding of change yourself information, right? And okay, so in the past, I have not really been big about New Year's resolutions, setting goals around the new year. It just didn't align with what I was going through, if that makes sense. I didn't feel like I needed a date to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't feel like I need a date to change. However, there is something about this new year that is giving me like momentum and energy. And I'm very excited about that. I love when I get to use external sources of motivation. Like, bring it on. I will gladly accept. And we're really getting fed tons of stuff about, like, I really liked what you said about the purchases, right? You
Mm-hmm.
need to change or you want to change, buy this thing in order to do that and be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to bash buying all things because there are lots of things that we can buy that can help us reach our goals. And that's not really the underlying factor of whether or not we'll be successful. Things that we can purchase are usually tools that can help us along the way. And a lot of them are really valuable. But we're not going to know which things to invest in or which things to prioritize if we can't hear our own inner voice and guidance and know what it is that we actually want, right?
Yes.
If I'm just listening to everything I'm being fed by other people who are exceptional at marketing. We have to understand that marketing is the job of marketing is to get you to want things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in America, we are really, really good at that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? We should want to encourage the right people to come into circles where they belong, just like
Mm-hmm.
we are trying to attract the right listeners who want to hear this message, right? We have to do marketing to do that as well. But if I am just buying into, whether I'm literally purchasing it or I'm giving my time and attention to it, if I'm buying into every single thing that is being thrown at me, now I'm going to be going in a million different directions and I'm not going to get to what it is I truly want because I'm spreading my attention so thin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be able to quiet all of that outside, recognize that it has a purpose of trying to get our attention and only give our attention to the things that truly are going to help us achieve what
Mm-hmm.
it is that we want, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about taking all of our attention away from everything outside of us. It's more just about directing it. And I feel like this time of year, when we're so overwhelmed with it, it's very important to have even clearer direction so that way
Mm-hmm.
we can make sure we're finding the right tools to help us along the way.
Yes. You summed that up in such a beautiful way, Maggie, for the trustees and listeners to hear that all of these things can be so great and the self-trust is absolutely necessary so that we don't purchase or invest our time or energy in things that may not actually be for us. And I think that's so important because I look back a few years ago when I didn't trust myself very well and I didn't know how to trust myself, which I'm going to give a tip right now because I can imagine a lot of listeners are like, okay, awesome. I love it. I love the message. Where do I start today? Right. And so I have an idea right off the top of my head that I'm going to give you. But I just remember in the past signing up for everything that, one could want. So, for example, it was a lot of times surrounded by looks and aesthetics of myself, my body. And that's huge. That's huge in our culture, right? That's huge to it's a big societal pressure that we have, especially as women, especially in the United States, of looking a certain way and being a certain size and things like that. And so I just remember in the past, like if somebody sold me, this is going to make you look better, or this is going to make you thinner, or this is going to make you X, Y, or Z. A lot of times, since I didn't have that strong sense of self and that strong sense of trust, I would just buy into things very quickly and very easily. And no regrets. Like it is what it is. But I'm so, so, so grateful that now I continue to nurture my ability to trust myself because I'm so much more intentional with my life. And it gives me so much more. This is the coolest part. This is the flex of trusting yourself, if you will. The power that comes from listening to yourself is really, really special and really, really cool. So for those of you listening who are like, yes, let's do this. Like, I need to trust myself more. I know that's an area that I need to nurture and I want to nurture. One of the things that I've noticed within the past year, I've taken like kind of like inventory of when I feel most like myself and most in self, if you will, and having that trust. I have to have alone time. When I do not have enough alone time, my sense of self can really feel distant from me. I say this from experience, everybody. So let's get practical now. we don't always have endless amounts of alone time. I've had seasons where I did and they were beautiful and I often crave them and I think about them a lot. So for any of you trustees who are listening who maybe have like little kids or are just in a season where you've got a lot going on and a lot of people around you, I'm sure many of you are like, oh my gosh, like you probably daydream about like your old apartment when it was just you, or, whatever it may be, taking a shower in private or whatever it may be. I can imagine that. And so I'm experiencing that now. Newly married, it's interesting to be with your spouse and to be with them so much of the time. When I lived alone prior to that, right? And then we, at this time in our life, add in something even crazier and personal. We're saving up for our own home. So we live with my mom right now. My grandma comes over all the time. She stays with us. And it's like one big crazy family. And I've noticed since, making that switch and, being here with everybody, it is really great at times and really, really difficult at other times, especially in the self-trust department, because I'm so surrounded by other people's energy and other people's way of thinking and being and doing that I need my own space. So I just want to share this quick because I think it applies. My safe space right now, I keep joking with my family, is the bathroom. I have candles. I have candles in my shower now, like really beautiful. Like I've made the shower the most aesthetic, cozy place I ever want to be. My bathroom is just where my space is right now. So I say that to be kind of funny, but for all of you who may be in that state, like to get started with the content that we're going to be talking about today, that quietness and that alone time and that stillness is oftentimes where we can connect with self the most. So to carve that out, however creative you've got to be, is where I'm at right now. But I notice a huge difference in my self-trust when I have that time and space away to myself, even if it means I'm in the shower for an hour a day.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Not at this moment, but I definitely have had that experience before. I think something I want to note that is coming out of what you said is that for a lot of people, and I have experienced this, I still experience this sometimes. It's not my default anymore, but it happens. Alone time can be very hard for a lot of people. So if you're listening and you're saying, I do crave alone time and that time to listen to myself, but when I have it, I get really anxious and I try to fill that space with either like listening to a podcast or calling a friend or watching TV or going shopping or something, right? If you feel that and when you're alone, you start to notice that you feel overwhelmed, anxious, any like heightened feelings, I just want to say that that happens, right? Like you're not alone in that experience. And I have experienced that where that was my default when I was alone as well. And it takes a lot of practice to get to a place where you can actually feel calm being with yourself. It's not something that just happens overnight for most people, especially because, like we're saying, we're really trained to be inundated with other people's messages all the time, right? Like we are trained to constantly be consuming things
We're like
from
input
other people.
junkies.
Input, exactly. And
We are
so
input junkies.
when we take that away, that can feel very unsettling and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so if that's you, I just want to say that I see you, I hear you, you are not alone. And I still encourage you to try to do it and try to practice, even if it's for a couple minutes at a time, until you can build up that tolerance, because that stillness, that quiet, that time with yourself, that's really when you're going to start to figure out what is actually important to you. And then from there, you can figure out how to trust yourself. But if we don't give ourselves the opportunity to have that space, even though it's challenging and uncomfortable, then we're going to continue to be stuck in this repeated cycle of wanting to trust ourselves more, but not being able to do it. Right. So that space that you're talking about, Meg, I feel like that is one of the most important foundational principles of self-trust. And it's something that takes a lot of work to develop.
I love that myself a few years ago feels so seen by you saying that. So I really appreciate that you gave that to our trustees right now, because I'm obviously like have a podcast on this. So I have really started to master that skill of being in stillness with myself and quietness with myself. And I remember that it wasn't like that in the beginning. And I kind of forgot about that. So I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you said that and you're making our listeners feel seen, because that's so true. Like when you go through life, and I kept saying the word input junkies, like, and I know that's probably like a little insensitive, but like we are so inundated with noise and things like that. And it keeps us so far away from our own sense of self-trust and our own sense of self, that I love what you're saying of like, if it feels uncomfortable, it's okay. And it's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's actually a lot of times the practice of feeling uncomfortable with that is what's getting us closer to doing the things, right? That's how change growth is uncomfortable a lot of times. And so I love that. Even setting a timer and trying to be with ourselves for 2 minutes at a time until we can work up more like stamina to be able to sit with ourselves, because ourselves sometimes are really hard to sit with. There are seasons in our life, and especially if this is newer to you, like being with yourself and self-trust and things like that, you're like, I don't want to sit with myself right now. So to do it for a short amount of time and that's the other thing I'll add. The therapist in me is just going to add one part to what Maggie said. That exposure of just a few minutes at a time, allowing the quietness to be there, even if it's just in the shower or on a drive for a few minutes, then play your music, whatever it may be. The other thing that I'll say is, as you notice those heightened emotions, like Maggie said, our instinct a lot of times is to fight them or to leave them, right? And I would just encourage you that as you expose yourself to being with yourself more, allow whatever it is to be there. Just notice it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to do anything in those moments. Just allow whatever comes to come and then move on. And you try again the next day. And so you're building up that ability to sit in stillness with yourself. And that is really special. And unfortunately, we don't find that on billboards.
No, we do not. Imagine, okay, we're going to have billboards one day and they're just going to say, trust yourself. And that's it. There's not going to be anything else on the billboard, right? And then you're going to drive by and you're going to be like, huh, interesting. What a concept. How
Can you
different from
imagine?
everything else. Maybe we just have to play the system like that.
That's exactly probably what we have to do. I imagine a world, I think our world would be a lot nicer if there was just more people in, positions of power to do that. That's a whole other podcast. Anyways.
Yeah.
So I want to move in a little bit, Maggie, to our personal ones, because I think our listeners are probably curious, like, okay, our ins and outs for the years or for this year coming up. I am so excited to hear some of yours. Do you want to start with like what we're bringing in, or do we want to go like, here's an in, here's an out? Like, how do you want to?
I think I want to start with what's going out. Just what's going out, and then we can end with what's coming in.
I love it. I love it. I'm so happy I asked you. Okay, do you want to go back and forth? Like you do an out and then I'll do an out?
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
Okay, tell me one of your outs, please.
Okay, so I talked about this a little bit on the last episode of season 3, but a big one for me that I am leaving behind. We are not doing this anymore. I'm sorry if you can hear my phone keep ringing. I swear I put it on Do Not Disturb, but it's just blowing up at the moment. Okay. Out is making up work for myself to make myself be busy and feel significant. And I just need to pause for myself for a second. Okay. I have this tendency, which I think probably a lot of people can relate to. It really ties into the whole like input junkie, overwhelmed with information type of mindset. But if I have extra time, my immediate thought process is, what other work can I do? Like, how can I make myself busy? Because I think that leads me to feeling like I'm like worthy or significant or like doing something important, right? That's kind of the thought process that occurs there. So I've done a lot of work to like become aware of that. And now I really want to be able to just enjoy empty space of time, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, like just being with ourselves. I don't want to fill extra free time with work. I don't want to do that anymore. That's staying in 2024. We're not doing that anymore.
Oh, that is such a good one. And yes, that is such a feeling. I think a lot of people can relate to it. I have definitely related to it at different like times in my life of like feelings. It's this is another societal piece that, is so, I understand it only because I studied psychology and marketing in school. The two things. Do you know what is best for marketing? Psychology.
Mm-hmm.
How to play on our emotions and our wants and our diswants or things like that. Like, all of it is not by chance. Okay. So you and the message that you received of being busy and feeling quote unquote significant, that has been ingrained in us for a very long time, that the harder we work, the more successful we become and blah, blah, blah. And, we need to be holistic enough to understand that hard work is important, period. Right?
Yeah.
It can be important. Hard work is important. It feels really good to work hard.
Yes, it does.
It feels really good to work hard. And your worth as a human being is not in direct correlation to how hard you work.
Right. And the thing for me is that I usually accomplish everything that I needed to do that day. And it's like the free time is like it should be like a reward. Like I want to look at it as like, ooh, like, look what I won. I can read my book. And yeah, I don't need to fill it with more work. Like, it's not like I'm not accomplishing the things that I needed to do. Like, come on, Maggie.
I love that. So you're leaving that behind and you are going to leave the free space for you. What I heard reading, like, what are some of the things that you're craving to fill some of that free time with?
Yeah, definitely reading.
Mm-hmm.
I love reading. And sometimes I feel like I have to wait until all the way at the end of the day to read like a fiction book, right? It's like, oh, I can read something that's going to make me more knowledgeable or personal development or something. But only at the end of the day can I read fiction. No, we're changing that story. So we're going to have more reading or more just like fun projects that I maybe want to do at my house or something. Like I really want to reorganize underneath my bathroom sink.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's not like an urgent thing. Like it functions just fine, but I want to do that. And like, that could be something I could do in free time. I don't have to make it work. I can just make it fun.
I love it. I love that. More time for fun, free time.
Exactly.
Recess is in.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it. Yes, recess. Okay. For you, what is one thing you are leaving in 2024?
I am leaving excessive scrolling in 2024.
I'm with you, girl.
I'm leaving excessive scrolling. And the reason why I say excessive scrolling is because at first I said I'm going to leave scrolling behind in 2024, right? Because that's the all or nothing Meg coming in. I didn't recognize a need that, oh my gosh, okay, I feel like crap every time I scroll for this long. This is not good for me. I am recognizing that it's not for me. And past Meg would have been like, okay, let's just cut it out, right? Same with like dieting and things like that. Well, then we just got to cut it out, right? Because it's so bad. No, wiser, more mature, Meg who trusts herself knows that I love scrolling sometimes. I really do. I have like a little internet family. I have people that I follow and that I love to follow, and I love the content. I love what they share, and I love that they're a part of my day. And once I see their stuff and I check in and I enjoy it, I need to get the heck off of it.
Yeah.
So I have changed my scrolling situation from which will be another out, so we'll talk about that in a second. My scrolling has moved from a smartphone to an iPad. So now whenever I want to scroll, I go on my iPad and I can scroll on my iPad. It changes the dynamic, as silly as it is, of this big bulky iPad. It's not as comfortable to just swipe with my little thumb over and over and over again. So I'm treating it more as like, ooh, this is like a fun like treat, like watching a show on my iPad, and I go on and I get to see what I want to see and then I get off. I don't know how this is going to work long term. So this is just a new thing that I'm trying. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep you updated. But I have noticed in 2024 that when I excessively scroll, I start to get nauseous. I don't feel well. I notice that all sense of time goes away. And I usually feel like shit when I get off of there. Oh, and I usually feel like I need to buy a bunch of things. So that is what I have noticed about my excessive scrolling. Therefore, I'm not going to go crazy, all or nothing. We're going to try it on the iPad, see how it goes. If I need to make shifts from there, I will. But that isn't out for me. The excessiveness of it is not going to work for me any longer. And it's fun to tie it into the new year, but if January 1st didn't exist, this was naturally coming anyways.
Yes.
So I just want you to know that. I just want to say that, like, New Year's great because it can be like, whoa, okay, perfect. Like it's kind of what I'm already working on. Like, let's do it. And this could happen on February 17th. And I would have been like, okay, that's it. I need to make a change because I'm noticing how I'm feeling. And I trust myself and know enough to know that like, this is not what I want for me. I don't want to be nauseous after being on the phone for this long. I don't want to be like, in a vortex of like, where did time go? Time and space don't exist. Oh, and one last thing about the excessive scrolling. I have a tendency to be like a doomsday scroller. So if any of
Oh,
you can relate to this, I go from like seeing my internet family, the people that I love seeing, I love following their stuff, they show their kids, the influencers that I love to follow. I see all that, right? And that's great. If Meg would just stop right there, we would probably be fine. But I don't. Somebody talks about a drone or a this or a that or whatever it may be, something that's like some conspiracy theory. And then I am deep down in a rabbit hole full of anxiety and thinking that the scrolling is somehow going to help something that I can't control. Right? So if you're feeling that, I don't know. I don't have any words for you yet, but I know that I'm trying on the iPad and I will let you know if that helps me stay a little more, put some space between me and social media, if you will.
yeah. I really like that strategy because it changes your natural pattern, right? Like the routine around scrolling. Now you're putting like a big abrupt change around it
Yeah.
because if you want to, you have to go on this big iPad that you, like you're saying, you can't hold it with one hand and reach the
Mm-hmm.
middle to scroll. It doesn't work like that. So
You have to be more intentional with an iPad. You have to hold it. Yeah.
exactly. Yep. And that's the thing is the intentionality around it is what's most important, right? And when we lose that piece, even if it's just for a second, that's when we end up scrolling for 2 hours. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? How did I get here?
How did you get here?
I don't remember. Usually I'm like, what was I even on my phone for in the first place? I
the best
know.
the best part is when I get in like the doomsday. Please comment or like leave us a review if you can relate. Like the best part is when I think then that like because I've listened to like different people on these conspiracy theories, like somehow I think I'm like cracking some code about something. When like I'm cracking nothing. I know nothing, right? We're all in the dark. I'm in mental health. I'm here to help the people through the emotions of all that we can't control. I can't control any of this. And me doing a deep dive on TikTok is not helping me control any of it. All it's
Yeah.
doing is, one last thing about that excessive scrolling. I have noticed that it's almost I hope this doesn't come off too dramatic because in my head it doesn't, but I don't want our listeners to hear it like this, but I'm going to say it anyways. It's almost become like a self-sabotaging, almost like self-harming style for me in some ways of like this place that I disappear to and this place that I escape to from my real life to go. And it can feel sometimes when I do it, like how I talked about, how I get on and I just see the things I want to see and I get off. It's when I take that step a little too far down the rabbit hole that it almost feels like I'm like harming, it's causing harm to me in some ways. And so again, we can circle back on this if anybody's more curious, but it's deeper than just like, oh, I'm on Instagram too much. No, like it's a real thing. And so I hope those of you who, if you know, you know, if you get
Yeah.
it, you get it. So that's one that I'm leaving behind in 2020.
I think more people will get that than you think. Like
Yeah.
I get that too. And I think that scrolling is not the only place that we cross that line. You can cross that line in so many areas of life where it's like everything is good in moderation, right? There is something to that saying where you connecting with people that you know or don't know in real life on social media is good for you until this point, and then it's no longer good anymore, right? When we have that excessive use of it. And I think that is an experience that a lot of people have, including me. I have that experience too on there. And that's why it's important that we recognize it and set some boundaries, you know? So, 2 iPad scrolling in 2025. Okay. This one goes perfectly off of that, actually, because you mentioned something about when you're on social media for too long, you feel like you need to buy a bunch of things. And so something I'm leaving in 2024 is impulse buying. I don't do it often. I really don't. Like, I'm not a big, I've ordered one thing off of Instagram, like shopping in my whole life. I've never ordered anything off of TikTok. Like, I'm not a big,
Mhm.
um, just like buy things all the time type of person.
Sure.
However, what you said about feeling like I need to buy a bunch of things, that's what I want to leave behind, if that makes
Mm.
sense. So, what I'm doing to help myself with this, right, like create a new roadblock, is I created a Pinterest board called Wishlist and I share it with my husband. He's always telling me that I'm hard to buy gifts for because I just buy things for myself, which I think
Mhm.
ties into this. And so I created a Pinterest board. And now when I feel like I want something, I just put it on the Pinterest board. So I take the link
Mm.
to that thing and I'm putting it on the Pinterest board. And there's no rules for the Pinterest board except for that if it is buyable, it can go on there. It can be
Mhm.
something I could purchase right now. It could be something I can't purchase right now because it's too expensive. And so I'm putting it on the Pinterest board, and that is helping me feel less like anxious around
Mm.
purchasing things because I'm not thinking about them. It's like, oh, I
Mhm.
saw this thing that I want, and now I'm putting it in this space. And then I can, like, if I'm in a place where I want to buy something, I can go there and like reevaluate. I'm not
Mhm.
like buying something because I see it the first time and I'm like, ooh, I like that. That's so cool. So yeah, I'm interrupting that pattern and we're leaving buying things the first time in 2024.
I love that. And that is such a great tool you've just given me and our trustees of having almost like that buffer in between. Sometimes it's just that, I mean, listen to the themes, everybody. You can hear the themes in our episodes. It's that pause, right? There's a pause in between the this and the that, right? There's a pause in between. And that pause a lot of times is essential. And in this case, for shopping, the self trust of it's leaving the flexibility for I may purchase this, right, in the future. And if I want it now, okay, let's sit on it for a minute, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's giving yourself that moment of pause because I love that so much. I'm actually experiencing that right now. I try and be a minimalist because I was not a minimalist for so long. So trying to be a little more minimal is very new for me. Because I'm the same way. I'm very as much as I know about marketing and what people are doing, I also fall for it very easily. Okay. So if you come
Yeah.
out with a new water bottle that has like strawberries on it, I want that, right? Immediately I want it.
I
However,
actually saw a water bottle yesterday that I was like, this is Meg. I need to buy
don't
it for her.
send it to me.
I
Well, you
know.
can purchase any gifts, but
Yeah, I might buy it as a gift,
I
but
love
I
it.
didn't buy it immediately. It went on the
It's
board,
on the
okay?
Pinterest board. I love it. It's one of those things that what happens is, and I know this from experience. Okay, so for any of you who are listening, I used to buy, it was actually more of anytime I was feeling sad, I didn't notice it at the time, but it was really in college and my master's. I lived up in a cold area where didn't really have much friends or family near me. I was alone a lot. I had a lot of alone time. So speaking of moderation, I loved that time for the alone time aspect. And I felt myself being a little more sad naturally because I didn't have as much of a community around me. So I ended up shopping a lot. And I shopped money that I didn't have. I put it on credit cards and things like that. And what happens is that in the moment it feels really good. And then I learned, okay, I have 3 water bottles and I don't need all of these because I just go for the next one anyways. So over the years, I've matured more and I'm learning how to be more intentional with my shopping as well. But I love that idea, Maggie, because it allows the pause. It's not that, oh, we just can't shop anymore, right? Because a lot of
Right.
people will do that. They'll be like, New Year's, oh my God, I spent too much money. Okay, now I'm just not going to shop. Well, you are. You're going to want to shop again. So having that space in between can be so cool. I freaking love that. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you for reflecting on it so well. It was amazing. Okay,
I
what's
just,
next?
okay. This one is really kind of a quick one and we don't need to go too into it. But for right now, I have decided to give my smartphone a rest.
Oh, I hoped you were going to talk about this.
Yes. So I have decided for right now, going along with the excessive scrolling, I'm giving my iPhone a rest. My iPhone is in the drawer, like the junk drawer. I actually haven't reached for it in a couple days, which is surprising. I moved all the apps that I need consistently onto my iPad, from my banking to my school stuff to my therapy to the podcast. Everything has been switched over to the iPad, and including the social media apps. And as of right now, those of you who are watching can see it, I'm using a flip phone. So this is my little, of course it's pink. It's a little Barbie flip phone. It almost looks fake, but it's not.
It really does look fake.
It looks like a kid's like fake phone. So for any of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see it. This is my little flip phone. All it pretty much does is text and call. And I love it. I'm loving it. Like, anybody who I love and would really talk on the phone with, they'll call me if they want to, right? And we'll talk on the phone. Texting's annoying on there, so some people might text me on my iPad, things like that. But so far, we're leaving the smartphone behind right now. I don't know if that'll be for the whole year or how it'll go. But I really it's interesting because I bought this phone on Amazon. It was like $100. And the way that it's marketed, I thought it would be marketed for kids, like for kids to have like a flip phone.
Okay.
But it's actually marketed. The Barbie phone is marketed as take a break from digital life and come connect with real life. So it's actually super interesting. So here's a part of marketing that really worked for me, and the reason why not everything is bad or good. It's what I'm craving right now. I want to be more present in my life. I want to be more present in my everyday life. My words for the year of 2025 is everyday wellness, how to sustain wellness every day as best as I can. And that really aligned with me. I want to take a break from digital life. Like, I'm on digital things all the time, and I want to connect with my people on my pink smartphone. So find me this summer on my little pink smartphone out by the pool, chit-chatting away.
Phone, not
on my flip
smartphone.
phone. Oh yeah, sorry. On my flip phone. So as of right now, that might be the most like daring one that I have, but like taking a break from my smartphone. And so far it feels really good.
I love that. I love that you're talking about this because it really ties back into the beginning of the episode where, just like we're saying, marketing is not bad. Having opportunity to buy into things that are truly aligned with what we want is amazing. Like, thank goodness we have that, right? Because you already knew that spending too much time on your iPhone was something that you wanted to make changes around. And then you found this tool that is helping you do that. It is aligned with what you want, right? And so you didn't feel like if I saw that marketing and bought it, it wouldn't be aligned for me because that's not something that I'm prioritizing right now. That would have been just an extra purchase that I bought into because I felt like I needed to do that. Where for you, it truly is aligned because that is something that you want to prioritize, right? So I love that.
There's something nice about that, about something that you're craving for some time and then making the investment to do it. Yes. Even us, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, Maggie, with like our listeners. Maggie and I have been talking about this for a really long time, of the things that we love here as a brand, right? We love showing up. We love providing content in the way of our episodes and things like that. And we don't love being on social media a ton. So we have been thinking about this and aligning with this, and we may be bringing in other people to help us do that. It's an investment that we may make of an area that we've identified that we don't love doing. And the power of that in our everyday lives is so, so, so cool and important and freeing, because it feels so good to make decisions every single day that align with trusting ourselves and what we want to do. And I'm talking from as small as, what do I want to eat today, to as, big and elaborate as really big changes that one can make.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm
What
very
is your
excited about
third
it.
out?
Okay, so this one kind of ties into what you were just talking about too. You're doing great with your unknown transitions here today because we didn't talk about our ins and outs.
We
beforehand.
didn't. We wanted it to be really like off the cuff. I wanted to hear them and be surprised.
Yeah. Okay, so my third one is, we're leaving in 2024, holding myself back out of fear of what other people will think.
Oh.
Yeah. And what I initially was thinking of, it obviously ties into every single thing. But what I initially was thinking of is how we were talking about how we want to, our goal is to reach as many people as possible with this podcast. That's the goal, right? And anything else that comes along with that is great, right? Like, you want to pay me? I'm so excited about that. You know what I mean? Like, you want to sponsor my show? I am so excited about that. Yes, please. And the goal is to reach as many people as possible. Okay. So, in order to do that, we have kind of had this thought process that, like, if we make it big enough, then people will find us, right? Like, then, like, the media company will want to pick us up. And I've really flipped that in my brain where I'm saying, why do I have to wait for them to find me? Why can't I pitch myself to them? Right. And so we're really going to go after like aligning with companies that will help us reach as many people as possible. And they do the work that they're really good at, and we do the work that we're really good at, which is making the episode, right? And in the past, I have been so scared of what people would think of me if I like really put myself out there, right? If I like really, really did it. If I didn't just like kind of have this like fun little podcast project, you know? And we're leaving that in 2024. We're just leaving it. Like, I hope you love this show, but I don't really care what you think. That's how I feel about it. I'm going to do it anyway.
It's freeing. It's fucking freeing, people. That's what it is. It is the permission to give yourself that I'm going to do what I want to do, and I got to let it go. It's so much easier said than done, though. It's interesting, Maggie, and please, trustees, keep me accountable on this. There's been something I've wanted to do on the smaller scale like that for so long, and I haven't yet, and I really want to, though. So, Maggie, I love yours. Yours is a big example of, like, I'm pitching myself to the media companies. We're going to go there ourselves. Like, who cares, right? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no or yes or maybe, right? One of those things is probably going to happen.
And if they say no, we're just in the same place we're already at. Like, what's the big deal?
Exactly. And it's a freeing way to live your life when you can get to that place. And I struggle with that. And there's one thing that I've been wanting to do, and everybody, please keep me accountable and see if I've been doing it. I go to workout classes here in my area, and the music is phenomenal. They just like always have the best playlist. It's so much fun. And I always want to dance in between reps. I just want to dance. The coaches kind of dance, and like it's so fun. And like I will bob my head. I've gotten as far as bobbing my head, but I won't dance yet because I'm worried that everybody's going to look at me and be like, why is she dancing? Okay. And I want to dance. Why can't I just dance? And then I saw a woman at my last class on the treadmill. She's an older woman. She was on the treadmill chilling, and she was dancing to the song. And I was like, I told her after the class, I was like, I want to be you when I grow up. Like, that's literally where I'm trying to get to. So that's like a funny one to add on to that with you, Maggie, is like not caring what anybody thinks. Because guess what? If I started dancing, most people in that class would probably be like, oh my God, I want to dance too.
That's it. Like, how you felt about watching her, that's how they're going to feel about watching you. Yeah. And for the one person you're going to come across that's like, oh, who does this girl think that she is? Like, screw them. Who cares? Like, right. we can't worry about that. We just can't be worried about it. And like you, I'm definitely not going to be perfect at this, but my intention is to get better at it.
I love it. That's a really good one. Okay. I want to get to our in so badly, so I'm going to go over my out really quick.
Okay.
My last out is actually a marriage out because I'm newly married and we're learning how to be more married and, you know, more married.
Yes.
We're learning how to marriage, if you will. And I want to talk about that eventually, not today, but like that's a feeling in and of itself. Learning how to combine your life with another human being is so beautiful and hard all at the same time. I think Glennon Doyle says brutal, like it's brutal and beautiful all at the same time. It's beautiful, let me tell you. And I don't really always hear people talking about the brutal part. I usually just hear the beautiful part. And so an out that I am working on right now in the marriage department is always trying to be on the same page. I feel like that has been my husband and I's like thing ever since we got together. And especially after being married, is like, we're always trying to fight to get to the same page. It's like one is like, pretend we're in the same book. It's like if I'm in another chapter and he's another chapter, it's like our fights and our difficult conversations are trying to pull each other to the same page that each of us are on. So my out for this year is accepting that we may be on different pages. Let's stay in the same book, right? But accepting that we're in different places and we don't always have to be on the exact same page. We want to be aligned and we want to be cohesive. But do we have to be on the exact same fucking page? We are too, it's almost like, I'm getting a little fired up, surprisingly. It's almost like, who who made us think that we could get on the same page? We are two strong individuals individually, right? And then you combine us into a marriage. Why? Who made us believe that we were ever going to like perfectly be on the same page about everything? Is that even possible? Is that even healthy? I don't know. These are all just rhetorical questions that I'm asking myself. And so for right now, I want one of my outs to be this desperation and this fight to be on the same page. My intention is to let each other be on different pages and just be in the same goddamn book.
Mm-hmm.
Let's stay in the same world, the same parameters, the same alignment with a lot of things. We don't need to be on the same freaking page. If I'm in a season of working on my wellness and Matt's not, or vice versa, he's doing something great and I'm like, no, thank you. Do we have to be on the same page? We're two individual human beings. Mm-hmm. So that is an out for me for 2020 right now.
I love that. I only want to say one thing about it, which is that two things, actually. One, Kaz and I just celebrated our 5-year wedding anniversary, and I feel like we've like just started to figure this out. So I'm very excited for you to like be figuring this out so early. And the second thing is that I think it's more about supporting the other person and what they're doing than doing it together. Sometimes you'll do it together and sometimes you won't. And it's not about whether or not you do it together. It's about the fact that you love and respect each other so much that you're going to support the other person to do whatever it is that they're trying to do. And that's what's really important, at least in my 5-year married opinion.
I love your opinion. I love having your opinion and the experience that you have to be able to look to somebody else and be like, hey, how does one navigate this? Because it's such an interesting thing, everybody. Like, I'm sure we'll get into this more because like it's just a vulnerable part of you can self-trust with yourself all day long, but we're not isolated individuals. We live in community with others. And as humans, we're meant to, right? We rely on each other to be there for one another. And in terms of marriage, it is one of those things that I'm just learning that I can meet my clients exactly where they are. Okay? My clients, I show up. I have no pre-thoughts or dispositions on them. I am a client-centered therapist, and I show up for my clients, and I meet them exactly where they are. Ask me to meet my husband exactly where he is. I fucking suck. Therapy Meg goes out the window, and I have such a hard time doing it, right? And vice versa. And so that's just the realness of it. I wanted to leave some realness of that's an out that I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to let that expectation go and meet each other where we are right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I think it's okay to bump into each other, you know, like we want to like never have a mess. And it's like, it's okay that you bump into each other because that's way better than never bumping into each other. You know? Like that's imagine if you never did. Okay, we're moving on to the ins. We're moving on.
Ins. Can I give you my ins in a group?
Sure.
Like instead of going back and forth, can we just like give the ins and then where our conversation goes?
Absolutely.
I'm just very excited. Okay. As I told you, my words lately, and for 2025, I'm also feeling it's not new year, new me. It's sustainable everyday wellness. I want to figure out what it feels like to live a well life every day. Knowing that not every day is going to be perfect, and knowing that not every day is going to be the same, and knowing that these crazy expectations I've had in the past to do this exact workout or eat this exact thing or blah, blah, blah is not real. So what does everyday wellness look like for Meg this year? That's the journey I'm on. So the 3 ins for me that are big are consistent movement, crucial. It used to be something that like I just would do it sometimes, go to a workout class here and there. No, for my mental and physical and all the health things, I have to move my body consistently or I go a little cuckoo. And I have a hard time showing up for my clients when I don't. So now it's like there's this external motivation of my baseline has changed because other people need my energy, not just myself and my immediate people. But my clients need me. The podcast needs me, right? And so I have to create that energy somehow. And what do you know? Been telling us all along how important movement is for our body. And turns out mother effers were right. I have to move my body consistently. Okay.
Love that.
That is an in. Consistent movement for Meg. Another in for 2025. I tried to get rid of it in 2024. Don't want to get rid of it. An in for me is my anxiety meds. I feel better on my anxiety medication. It helps me. For those of you who don't know, I have a diagnosis of OCD. It's very real for me. It is a real thing that I will always have to nurture and maintain. It's just the way that my brain goes. And my anxiety meds help me a ton in that department. So they are back in 2025, and I don't plan on them leaving for the foreseeable future. So we'll go from there in the future. And the third one is more reading and everyday wellness type things. So more reading, fiction especially. I don't really want to read a self-help book right now. I'll listen to a podcast every now and again, but right now I just want to listen to fiction and read fiction. I am putting candles in my shower and just finding little everyday moments to make for myself. And that feels really good. So those are my 3 ins. I'm
That's
dying to hear
exciting.
yours, Maggie. It's so funny, my excitement to hear yours.
Well, before, I just need to tell you that I'm excited to hear about what books you read. So please, you have to tell me. Okay.
They're all murdery and crimey, and they're
amazing.
All... Yeah.
Send them over. Okay. I love those things. I love wellness. I love movement, obviously. So I'm so excited for you. Okay. Number 1. I have 1 that's kind of different and 2 that are kind of similar. But number 1 is saying no to events that I have any doubt about whatsoever. That's in, I will not be there. I feel like this goes back when we were having the conversation about Halloween parties. And you were like, please send me all of the invitations. And I was like, please don't invite me to a Halloween party. I don't want to go.
I love that.
I get in this limbo where I say yes because initially I get very excited about things. Like if I get invited to something, initially I say yes because I actually truly am excited about it in that moment. And then when I come down from the excitement, I realize that I don't actually want to go. And then I am in this awkward, I told them yes and now I don't want to go, but I should go because I said yes, but I really don't want to go. So I should say no, but then I have to tell them that I don't want to go. And it's like this whole thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to say no. Yeah.
We're just going to say no.
I think that that's what we're going to do because first of all, the strategy is no committing to anything right away because I know myself at this point that my excitement is probably fake. Okay. So we're not committing to anything right away. And then I get this gut. Everything for me is in my gut. I get this gut. I don't know how to explain it, but when I truly am excited about something, I stay at this, I start off here and then I come down and my baseline's here and I'm just a little above it and I'm just a little tingly, you know, and it's a yes. And then when it's not a yes, I'm a little bit below the baseline and there's this slight cloud, you know, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I always try to rationalize the cloud so that way I then say yes. But we're not rationalizing the cloud anymore. We're just saying no. So I won't be there. That's number 1.
I love the clarity. And you know what it is? It's evidence from your past self that you're myself is telling me what the fuck I need to do. That's another thing for the self-trust. I know we're talking about the stillness and things like that, but just take inventory of how the fuck we naturally are. Sorry, I'm cursing a lot. I think I'm passionate now. You're taking inventory. Your body's telling you. For me is early morning workout classes. For a season of my life, it was great. I don't want to show up anytime before 9 a.m. I'm not coming. But I'll still do it. And then in the morning, I have this whole debate with myself for an hour and I can't go back to sleep anyways. And I may as well go on to the workout class, but I don't.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing. Yep. Why do we do things that evidence tells us we don't want to do?
Right. And it's getting into this land of should. So I don't want to get into the land of should. We're just saying no. Okay. That's number 1. Number 2 is becoming a morning person. I am going to sleep earlier and I'm waking up earlier and I'm already doing it and it feels great. It doesn't feel fun, but it feels great. Getting up at 6 a.m. is the best time for me to wake up to feel my best throughout the day and want to go to sleep early. When 6 a.m. comes and my alarm goes off and it's dark outside and cold, I'm not excited about it. However, when I get up, then I feel better. So that is in. And then the third one, which goes along with that, is getting ready for the day. Doing my hair, doing my makeup, making sure my outfit matches, not just wearing workout clothes that I did my workout in all day. it's okay if I put on different workout clothes, but I want to like put more effort into getting ready.
Sure.
So those are my ins.
I love your ins. They're so, I was so excited to hear your ins. I know that's silly, but like, it's so fun to hear what other people are working on. And yours, like a theme of yours is like, they're simple and they're probably sustainable for you.
I hope
And that's
so.
a fun thing, right? Like, yeah. And if they're not, hello, human, self-trust,
We'll tell you about it.
Yeah, we'll let you know. We'll find out if somebody will see me like, out and about, like, that bitch was scrolling on her iPhone. I saw her on her iPhone. We'll keep you posted on how it goes, but I'm so excited for season 4, first and foremost, like being back with you all, our trustees, our listeners, all of our new listeners. Hello. Like, it is so, it feels really good to be back for season 4. I just really like, it feels great to be in a place of a community of our podcast where others are here for a similar thing, which is to learn and nurture our ability to trust ourselves more. That feels really, really cool. And I'm excited to be back with you, Maggie. So those are our ins and outs, people. And remember, this time of year, it is more important than ever to really get quiet with ourselves and try and quiet some of that noise so we can trust ourselves to make whatever decisions they might be that we need in life.
Yes, absolutely. And the only person that's going to know what's best for you is you.
Shocker.
Spoiler
alert.
Yep.
It's you. All the things. It's us. And it's, I can't wait to jump into more episodes with you all. In the meantime, please share the episode if you I know we say this in our outro, but if you found this episode valuable, please share it with a friend. That's a goal for us as a podcast team, is to really expand and be able to get, our message and our podcast in the hands of as many people as possible. Obviously, we want people to be able to trust themselves, and it leads to, from what we found, a more powerful, fulfilling, personalized life. And so I'm really excited for as many people to hear us this season as possible. But that's all we have for you for today, Maggie.
Yep, that's all that I have too. So we will catch you next week back with another episode of You Can Trust Yourself. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us on another episode of You Can Trust Yourself with Meg and Maggie. Our mission is to leave you with encouragement and tools to nurture your ability to trust yourself. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe and please share it with a friend. Then take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review. Your support helps our show grow, and for that, we are extremely grateful. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch the episodes. Till next week, lots of trust and love, Meg and Maggie.